Rex is a dog, but I think what he just did in this Hudson and Rex episode proves he understands murder better than half the human detectives on TV. Stay with me, because this is not a normal reenactment scene. Charlie decided to act out the crime step by step, using himself as the killer and getting a colleague to play Rory, the victim. He grabbed a hammer, the exact same type of hammer that came from Rory's own tool chest, and he hid in the spot where the killer must have hidden, waiting. And that is where things get strange. Because the moment Charlie played out the attack, swinging the hammer the way the killer would have swung it, Rex did not react like a dog watching a game. Rex reacted like he was watching the actual murder happen all over again. I believe that reaction is the whole point of this scene. And I think it tells us something the writers want us to notice before anyone else on the show figures it out. Let's slow this down. Because every detail in this reenactment matters. Charlie needed to understand how Rory died, so instead of just reading a report, he decided to physically become the killer for a few minutes. He picked a colleague to stand in as Rory, and he told him exactly what to do: hide, wait, stay quiet. I think this is one of the smartest things Hudson and Rex have ever done on this show, because instead of talking through a theory, Charlie is testing it with his own body, his own movements, and his own weapon. That weapon is not just any hammer. It came from Rory's own tool chest. Stay with me here, because that detail is not something the show would throw in for no reason. If the murder weapon came from the victim's own tools, that tells us the killer did not walk in prepared. The killer found the weapon on the spot, which means this was not planned days in advance. I believe the writers are quietly telling us that this murder was likely a moment of panic, not a cold, calculated plan. Charlie gets into position. He hides in the same spot the killer must have used, and he waits. His colleague, playing Rory, walks in and starts a normal conversation, the kind Rory might have had with Ace or anyone else in that space that day. And that is when Charlie strikes. He leaps out from the hiding spot and swings the hammer, just like the real killer would have. The stand-in playing Rory even reacts and says good job to Charlie for pulling it off so convincingly. And that line hit me harder than I expected. Because it almost sounds like something you would say after watching a good performance, not after reliving a murder. I think the show wants us to feel that strange discomfort. This is a game to the people acting it out, but it was not a game for Rory. But here is where the real twist begins. Rex is standing right there the entire time, watching Charlie hide, watching him wait, watching him strike with the hammer. And instead of staying calm, Rex reacts. He does not bark playfully. He does not act like this is training. Something about that reenactment triggers something in him, and Charlie notices immediately. He turns to Rex and asks him directly, "What is it?" I believe that single question is the moment this episode flips from a simple procedural reenactment into something much bigger. Because a trained canine like Rex does not react like that without a reason. Dogs pick up on things humans miss, and if Rex is unsettled by this specific reenactment, then something about the way Charlie hid, the way he struck, or the way the victim reacted does not match what actually happened the day Rory died. Stay with me, because this is where I start forming my own theory. I think the hammer detail is the key to everything. If the hammer truly came from Rory's own tool chest, that means the real killer either already knew where Rory kept his tools, or the killer and Rory were close enough or familiar enough with that space that grabbing the hammer felt natural in the heat of the moment. That is not a stranger's move. That is someone who has been in that space before, maybe many times. I believe this points towards someone from Rory's own circle. Someone comfortable enough in his environment to know exactly where his tools were kept. And desperate enough in that moment to use whatever was closest instead of coming prepared with a weapon of their own. And then there is Rex's reaction, which I think is the loudest clue in the entire scene, even though he cannot speak a single word. Rex does not react to a hammer. He reacts to something bigger. In these shows, when the dog reacts strongly to a reenactment, it is almost always because something about the movement, the timing, or the positioning is wrong compared to what Rex remembers from the actual scene. I believe Rex might have been near the real crime scene before, or picked up a scent, a sound, or a memory that Charlie's version of events does not match. If that is true, then the official theory the team is currently working with might be incomplete, or worse, completely wrong. I